Lindsay Barnett, CEO of Playground Productions, which owns the Backyard Sports franchise. Thanks for being here with us
Thank
today.
you for having me.
So we're right on the heels of the launch of the Backyard Sports animated special. I'm curious, what's been the feedback from that?
Oh, it has been one of the greatest professional weeks of my life. Just being able to take this great IP and turn it into a TV special has been amazing. I mean, I've been dreaming about that moment since 1997. I mean, these characters are so ripe for animation and storytelling, and to think that there's never been any storytelling done with them in this kind of 2D animated way, and people really have been loving it. So it's been an unbelievable experience.
Obviously, you've done already a lot of work revitalizing the brand, relaunching the games. Why did this particular medium make sense in terms of kind of furthering that message?
Yeah, I think it actually highlights our goal as a company in a lot of ways. I mean, we really wanted to make sure that we could do the children's and family content that we believe our fans deserve, and that needs to be out there right now. And we're an indie, and so it's a little bit different than how other companies are run, but we felt like we could really spearhead and drive that mission. And so we've been creating the type of content that we grew up on in the 90s and 2000s, that Saturday morning special that you'd wake up and couldn't wait to see. And so we did it ourselves, which we feel really proud of.
The story, hiring a private investigator to track down the IP rights, it's been well told at this point.
Yeah.
I'm curious how hard it is to actually revitalize IP from a past generation and kind of like retrofit it, re-identify it, get out to an audience, and hopefully catch a new generation.
Well, it's crazy because that was just the first part of the story of being able to hire that private investigator and track the rights down. But even crazier is once we've got the rights, we didn't have any source code. And so all 6 games that we had from 1997 to 2002 were all brought back by CD-ROM hacking and reverse engineering. And so we've been very lucky that many of the original fans have now grown up to become engineers and computer scientists, and they've been able to actually do this for us. So they revitalized it, and we benefited, obviously, by being able to get the brand back to fans faster. And now we've just announced that a brand new backyard baseball game is coming this summer, and I can't wait until they see what we have. And it's awesome because a lot of kids and new fans have come to the brand from the retro titles.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys are positioning yourself more so than just a video game publisher. I'm curious, how did you kind of see the business case? When you were looking at this, okay, we can get this IP, this is what we can do in XYZ. How were you thinking about, okay, we want to get revenue from here and there? What was the business case kind of looking like?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I grew up with the Peanuts as kind of my North Star. And a lot of that has been, how do you enter the brand? And for me, Snoopy and Charlie Brown, I didn't enter through the comics. I entered through merchandise. I had action figures and stuffed animals. And same thing with Pokemon years later. I entered through the cards, not through the game or through I eventually got it all. And so we kind of thought about it like that, is there's a lot of different entry points to backyard baseball and backyard sports. Maybe you're collecting baseball cards. Maybe you are going to buy our merchandise from Wilson. We have bats now and gloves. Or maybe you're going to play our games or watch our special. And so we've seen, even over the last week, that so many families and kids watched our special. We've seen so many millennials come back to our games, and it's just expanding our audience in a really interesting way.
What do you think the most important revenue streams, short and long term, are going to be? Obviously original content, merchandise, trading cards, the actual video games. How are you positioning short and long?
Yeah, I think that the video games are always going to be our bread and butter. I mean, we know that that's what the fans are wanting, and we're doing something that's not on the marketplace. I mean, to truly be creating the most accessible sports games, there isn't competition. We're here at the Super Bowl, there's Madden, there's MLB The Show for baseball. We look at our brand as something that kind of stands beside those. Kids can get into those games a lot earlier. They can learn about sports and then become fans of these other great brands. So, we really think we're additive to the culture, and are in a great lane where people can also play together as a family, and a little bit more like a Mario.
How do you weigh kind of the risk reward? Because bringing a brand back, whether it's acquiring the rights or creating an animated special, it's expensive. It's not cheap. And in a lot of cases, some of the revenue goals, like selling a new game, come down the road. So how do you weigh that risk reward, especially if you're developing a new video game? That is not cheap.
No, it's it's definitely a risk, and there's a reason why doing things indie is not the most popular, but we've really looked at it as how can we drive good content, like truly good for you content, which we think is a lot of the games, unfortunately, out right now are very predatory. Like they are, there's microtransactions, there's ads that parents don't want kids to be seeing. And with us in control, we can really make sure that we're keeping this a safe environment. Even just like chatting with other people through live modes that parents might not want kids to be chatting with. We believe that brand safety is going to carry us through a much longer term, and people are going to trust and know who we are as a brand. And even by creating content like the animated special, we're sharing a really good valued content, and I think people are seeing that.
When it comes to the economics of video games, obviously microtransactions, as you mentioned, has become a great way that game publishers recoup money. Is that something you see always kind of keeping to the side and not being a part of the backyard sports platform?
Yeah, so, we are leaning much more into downloadable content and other types of ways that you could potentially monetize the game. But really it's about making the choice of whether or not you want to have that. And it's not a need. It's not a you have to have this in order to win the game, or this is going to make you that much better. I think there's a lot of fun ways where, people can enter the backyard universe or their new modes, but the game that people will be able to buy this summer, if they just wanted to buy that, they will have an incredible experience.
Obviously with the older games, CD-ROM hacking, bringing them back, you can play them on the computer, iPad, whatnot. I'm curious, do you think that product will hold up over the long term, or is that kind of just an early nostalgia play? And what I mean by that is, like, I have a friend, he has a young son, and he tells me all the time he can't wait to introduce it to him. But he's an iPad kid, sure. And we're playing at the speed of 1997 on the sure. iPad, not 2026. So how are you thinking about that?
We've just seen the results. We've seen how many people are playing our retro titles, and we never could have expected that. I mean, we are the number 1, 2, and 3 games in the Apple App Store right now, and they are truly from 97, 99, and 2001. And so we see the data, and we see that people are playing them, and I think that there are components to the game that just people are, it's timeless, I think that especially like the comedy carries more so than anything else, and streamers are a huge way that have been getting new fans into our brand.
What more can you tell me about the development process of the new game? What's going into that? Next gen? Like, what is that going to look like?
Yeah, so it's the first new game in over a decade, which is crazy to think about. How much has changed in terms of technology. We're building it on a Unity engine, and it's with Megacat Studios, who has done our retro titles, and they really specialize in preservation. And so being able to build something new, it is truly preserving everything that people loved about the original games, but modernizing it on all of the new systems and with new technology in ways that this game has certainly never done. And the other thing that I'm really, really proud of is our Chief Product Officer, Chris Waters, has a massive background in animation, done many of the things that we grew up on. And we have brought in an incredible animation team to our video game. And so I think that people are going to be really surprised when they see just how many funny animations are in there and how we've really enhanced it in a new way.
So, one of the things that's become very popular is a lot of newly released games by indie studios looking like retro games. Is that the aesthetic you're going for, where it's going to look like it's from the 90s, or will it look something more contemporary?
I think people are going to be really surprised that there are nods to the 90s games, but it is truly a modern game. And, I think that's a huge part that appeals to a new audience, but also, we've play tested this with a lot of the hardest core fans, and they have been blown away with how it is everything that they've been wanting from this game for a long, long time, but It is different, but we've been overwhelmed by how excited they are.
What is the balance between Playground Productions and Megacat Studios? Like obviously they're more on the hard design side, but kind of what role are you guys playing versus what they're playing?
Yeah, so we're the producers on the game at Playground, and Megacat is our developer. We do not have that coding background. I wish I do. I can memorize the buzzwords, but they're actually the ones who are coding it. That's how I can say it. I'm just pretending. My brother is actually a mathematician, and he actually does this stuff, and he jokes with me all the time. He's like, Lindsay, the nerdiest thing about you is you have a video game.
Obviously the video game will sell and
Yeah.
you will make money from that. How are you thinking about other monetization strategies? Where do you want to really double down outside of just producing games going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, a big part of our strategy has been how can we make sure we retain the rights? There's a lot of people who want to, monopolize a specific vertical, but it winds up kind of taking over in a way that we don't want. So, the animated special was a great example of us putting out a piece of content and, doing that in an indie way, which is a big risk, but we found a sponsor for it. We were able to now retain our merchandise rights, and we have mass market merchandise this year. We have an entire Wilson campaign. It's actually funny. Pablo Sanchez is the first athlete who is signed to all of the different Wilson product lines because they've never had anybody who is basketball, baseball, football, soccer, and he touches each one of those brands. So it's a really interesting way, and we haven't tied up those rights. So we really want to be intentional about how we extend, especially with, in children's and family property. That's a really great place.
How difficult has it been, pursuing relicensing opportunities with the major professional sports leagues? Or even I noticed like there are the announcements, so-and-so legend players back with Backyard Sports.
Yes.
So how difficult is that? Because those agreements, go back to the 90s.
Yeah, and interestingly, a lot of those players aren't in the alumni association, so they were deals that we had to construct with their teams. We have an incredible director of operations, Zach Oliver. He chased down many of them, and literally, it's Randall Cunningham, for example. He's now a pastor and works at a church, and he called the church to get him, left a voicemail on the machine. So there's a entirely interesting, crazy way that we've been able to get people back in the game, but more often than not, they have a real love for the brand. And, we were just over here talking to Ryan Ripken, whose dad, Cal, was on the cover and returned to the 2001 game. And that's been helpful for us, to have people's kids who are like, oh my gosh, that was the greatest game. Now you're back, and we want you to be back in it.
Should we expect that when the new game comes over the summer, there'll be some form of licensing attached to the leagues or players? Or
I think you'll have to wait to find out how we're doing that, because it's a really different and interesting way. Because what we have that other brands don't have is we are a backyard sports. So, we don't have to rely every year on releasing a new backyard baseball title. And so we want to make sure it's a great game that people can constantly be updating. And there's always going to be fun things that we can add to it.
Do you want to be in the business of picking up other nostalgic IPs from the 90s, or do you see yourself solely as kind of the vehicle for backyard sports?
Well, I would love to extend in a lot of different ways. Right now, we are a team of 5, and so, we employ over 100 people through contractors and with Megacat, but it's a small team, and our bandwidth is very thin, but I think that this is really creating a business case study for what we can do, and I have a lot of ideas on how Playground continues to grow and what other properties. I have a list of properties that I'm like, ooh, especially when it comes to not just games, but books that haven't been, exploited. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can do.
I wish you could tell me.
I know. I will say my time as a elementary school teacher, I taught for 8 years, has been one of the most informative things, not just from working with that audience, but actually the content consumption, from what kind of books were popular to the types of games that they play and that works for them. I have so many ideas.
Is it disorienting kind of looking back now as a CEO versus being a teacher, all those years ago?
There's so much overlap. Um, that I really feel like I get to continue teaching in a larger classroom in some ways. Like, I get to create great content for even more students, more kids, and more families. I mean, our core consumer right now is a millennial, but even just being able to provide fun content that brings joy to generations, I think it's really meaningful to me.
With all these kind of different growth avenues that you'd
Yeah.
love to pursue, do you think about institutional money, private equity, possibly as a partner at some point in the future?
Right now we're going to try to stay independent for as long as possible. And a huge part of that is this past year and a half, we've been able to grow so fast and do it in a way that everybody on the team feels proud of. And, that can get complicated when the rights start to be divvied up a little bit more. And we also want to really make sure that, even with some of the other competitors or other sports games that are in the space, whoever invests can get complicated too. Even in fans might not like that. And right now they really enjoy what we're doing.
What's the next frontier in terms of awareness? Is it more original content? Is it, maybe partnering up with professional players of sorts? How do you kind of take the notoriety of the brand from here and go to here?
Yeah, so I never would have been able to guess this about a year and a half ago, but streamers and influencers have been a massive way that we've gotten new consumers. It's been seeing millennials play our games and enjoy them in a unique way. It's almost as if whoever is playing them on their streams is teaching a generation of fans, how do you play this game? And I've seen everything and things I haven't even expected. Dude Perfect, for example, went on their gaming channel, played it. It's the most watched video on their gaming channel. And they played it in this like very comedy forward way. But I've also seen people play it in angry coaches. That was me watching how I could say that. Angry coaches in a more explicit way. I've seen people play it, with their families in really sweet ways. I've seen kids, commentating on our games. So there's just so many ways to consume the content that I never could have anticipated.
Are you thinking one and done with the first video game, see how it goes, or are you already kind of laying out a longer
I'm
term
ready.
timeline?
I'm ready. I'm already thinking about the brand extensions. I'm thinking about, our animated special was really successful in the past week. We just hopefully are right now hitting 1 million views in this interview. And, with a very limited marketing budget, and I feel like we can really do a lot more. And so I'm excited about the full content pipeline.
I guess the one thing I didn't hit is in the 90s when these games were out, women's sports were not really, around on the professional level. There were some smaller leagues, but now that it's taken hold, WNBA, NWSL, what kind of opportunity does that offer you guys that wasn't there in the 90s?
Yeah, well, it's incredible that the Backyard Sports franchise was really the first of its kind, and it's still the only of its kind. 15 boys, 15 girls, equal playing ability. It was the first game to do that, and in 29 years, we still hadn't had a game that is on the market with that kind of representation. And I think that there's a huge way that we can lean into it. I mean, I discovered a lot of great athletes from this game. I was a Lisa Leslie fan because I played with her in Backyard Basketball 2001. And I think there's going to be a lot of ways that we can introduce and bring more fans to softball or the Olympics or soccer or whatever it might be, because not only could they appear in our games, but maybe they'll appear in some content that we could create, because we can do animation and we can do everything.
No, it's a great point. And, like you said, Lisa Leslie, I think Mia Hamm was in Backyard Soccer back in the day,
There was
too.
Brandy Chastain was
Brandy
in it.
Chastain.
There's a lot of great talent.
And now there's so many to pick from. But
yes.
Before I let you go, I do have to ask you who your favorite Backyard Sports character is, but I'm going to limit you. You can't say Pablo Sanchez, and you can't say Mr. Clanky.
Okay. Well, I wasn't going to say Mr. Clanky, but I think I'm going to go Keisha Phillips. She's my second pick always. I think she's a great power hitter, and I've been playing backyard football nonstop during the football playoffs, and she is the greatest lineman. She is so good. Yeah, I love Keisha. And then, but I will say, in the animated special, I am the voice of Vinny. So, it's an honor of a lifetime to play Vinny. But yes, that might have to be my other pick.
Lindsay Barnett, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much.